basically pushed her to, send her pictures of herself.
This this wife convinced this poor husband that she was being forced to send pictures. She was being forced to send pictures. The manipulation is heavy. Joseph, YouTube, welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Chishi Zed.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
Okay. My wife had a baby with my father. Buckle up, let's get it.
Yep. And today we'll jump right into this one. We've had some interesting and complicated family dynamics, I guess you could call it, on the show. We've talked about cheating. We've talked about hiding pregnancies from partners.
Shout out to these guys. I think I've done one other video from their channel. Go check them out. They're called Other People's Lives. Just keep watching.
But from this topic alone, this might take the cake for difficulty of kind of wrapping your head around this situation. So we have our guests on the line. I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Yeah, absolutely. So let's just confirm this to start, because you sent us an email saying that you discovered that your wife was having an affair with your father, and then they had a child that you are now raising as your own. Is that correct? Yes, it sounds like some old school daytime, craziness, but television craziness. But that is true. It is all accurate. So, how did you first find out or suspect that your wife and father were having an affair?
Crazy, beyond insane. Let's keep watching.
So, just to kind of go back a little bit, my wife and I are still married, actually, and we from the start of our
Look at the guys' faces there after he said that. If this whole situation wasn't bad enough, it just got worse. Whoa.
relationship, right at the beginning of our relationship, her father actually had passed away from cancer, and in place of that, she was kind of going through some dark times, and my father and her kind of sparked up a little bit of a father-daughter relationship, I guess, or soon to be father-in-law daughter relationship kind of thing. And they would text back and forth every once in a while, sort of thing. It wasn't anything at that point, and I was okay with it because I kind of saw him as like a stepping in place of this hole that had been put in her life, and so that was okay. But as the years went on, they spoke a lot. They were constantly texting. We lived pretty far away from each other for a while, so I never really assumed anything, got me, uh, you know, as far as thinking anything weird about it. There were times where I'd kind of bring it up and be like, "You're always texting him," kind of thing. Just sort of jealous that, like, how come you never text me? You're always texting him, kind of
That's definitely weird. Should have been a red flag.
thing. And but that's about as far as it went. And then we actually moved closer to them, and for a while, we're living with them while we were in transition. And they were just already super close, so then they got even closer and whatnot. And there were different times where I would, you know, bring up, like, I feel uncomfortable with how close you guys are, and I feel like we're drifting a little bit apart, and I'm not a big fan of that. And they'd both assure me, "Oh, we're so sorry, absolutely understand, blah, 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 whatever." Well, fast forward 4 years from that point.
You've been beating the cheeks up for 4 years straight. Hey guys, did you know that I'm on Facebook? Go ahead and hit that link pinned to the top of the comment section. If you're on Facebook, give me a follow. You can keep track of current content, shorts, and also older content if you are following me on Facebook. Appreciate you guys. Back into the video.
And I caught, I just started feeling just, that kind of gut feeling like, oh, there's something weird going on here. And she had left, and I had actually logged on to her Snapchat and received a snap from him that was, inappropriate for sure. And that just sort of began the unfolding process of discovering, how big this was at this point.
So this was years we're talking about. I mean, you mentioned there was like 4 years. So how long were they sort of talking? Did you eventually find out like the extent of it?
Yeah, so, at first it was just like, you know, for fear out of her part, she was very afraid that, that, I was gonna leave and all that kinda stuff, and had always felt that, from that start, from that point forward and whatnot, and so she kinda just she never like, I didn't find everything up front, basically. So it was at first, like, it was just like, "Oh, just some inappropriate, text messages." You
She wasn't afraid he was gonna leave. No woman who does this is afraid a man's gonna leave. She knew that he would do what he's doing, staying.
And so I kind of worked through that for a little bit. Well, then upon, discovering and searching through, her computer and different things, I'd find like an email that was written a while back, like years before. And I was like, man, you guys were even talking then. And then she would say yes. And then, I would try to push her and try to find out, well, how far did this go? How far did this go? And then it came out that every once in a while they would like it started when we moved down here. They became physically inappropriate um, when we were living there with each other, with them. And then after we moved out, not too long, during that transition period into our own house, um, a couple times a year he would come over basically. So it was one of those things that it had been occurring for several years. I did not know,
This is wild, bro.
and my mom did not know, and they're
So
still together. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so when you find out that he sent this Snapchat, do you bring it up to him?
um I immediately kind of went through, I guess you would kind of you kind of associate it with like the stages of grief. So I went through like the immediate like shock, and then went through like super angry, and then sort of denial, and then kind of blame myself for a lot of it. I immediately was kind of like, cease contact, do not talk to us, speaking to him. I actually called him the next day. He was he she had managed to get back into Snapchat, and she had figured out pretty quick, the night that I had found out that I had done something, because she'd got notification or got logged out or something. And so she was able to shoot off a message, hey, something's weird's happening, I don't know, he may know, or something kind of thing. And so he was sort of aware that I knew. I kind of texted him and was like, you know do not call, don't text, don't anything. Don't want to hear from you. The next day, I actually called him up and spoke to him on the phone, and basically just told him, I was like, um, you know, I'm this is so unacceptable, so ridiculous. I have no idea how I'm going forward with this, all this stuff, blah blah blah, and just sort of confront him with it as a man. I was like, you will not contact her, you will not be speaking to her again. Don't, you know, kind of went like that route. And of course, he was incredibly apologetic and blah blah blah, whatever. And yeah, so that's kind of where we were then.
What are you guys thinking right now? What are your thoughts up until this point right here? What type of father would do this to his son, first of all? And what type of wife would, because he's talking about her losing her father to cancer and she's going through all that, would use that as an excuse? Because you know she did. You know she did. Would use that as an excuse to commit such a horrible offense. Let's keep listening.
So, wow. That's, I think a lot of people listening just feel they would personally be consumed by anger because that's how I feel, just kind of an like unimaginable anger because it's so hard to imagine this even happening. But so let's move forward. I guess you find out that they are having an affair, that they are communicating consistently. You mentioned being physically inappropriate. So how does this begin to unravel? Because you mentioned that it got to the point of a pregnancy.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of I'll scoot back, because obviously chronologically it's very weird and muddy and whatnot. So when we lived in a different state from them, they would talk all the time. My wife got close to him. We're texting back and forth. By then, she was actually pregnant with our second child. That's my child. And they become close while she's pregnant, like pretty far along. We actually met them down in Florida, and like were with them on like a family vacation kind of thing. And she wasn't sleeping well, he wasn't sleeping. They just kind of talked back and forth kind of thing. And he kind of like put it out there like, hey, you can text me anytime if you can't sleep or whatever. I know you're uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. And and so that kind of started the whole thing. Then fast forward a couple of months, then they've talked for a while. He had basically pushed her to, send her pictures of herself.
This this wife convinced this poor husband that she was being forced to send pictures. She was being forced to send pictures. The manipulation is heavy. Let's keep listening.
Because she was struggling a lot with like the like body dysmorphia after post pregnancy, blah blah blah. This is how I've come to figure out how this kind of all started to unfold, and it just sort of became inappropriate there. She called it off for a while. We moved down. He kind of picked it up hot and heavy from there, and she, you know, kind of just went along with it, sort of thing. And then fast forward to now, the 4 years later, I find the Snapchat. Now this time we had already had our third child, who just hit a year. I found out that they had been having the affair just about a week before her 1 year birthday. And for a while, it had always dawned on me that my third child had brown eyes, and I always brown eyes and sort of a reddish tint hair. And I always thought it was like, wow, that was kind of a weird anomaly, because both her and I have blue eyes. I didn't even know that was a thing. I also am a nurse, and so like I was like, I feel like there was a pretty low chance for that. And
Mhm.
so uh, after I found out all this, and after it finally unfolded that they were not just sending pictures back and forth, that they were inappropriate physically for a while, I was like, okay, now you need to explain this because my dad has brown eyes and he's got kind of a reddish tint in his beard and whatnot. And she was kind of like, I honestly don't know. And I'm like, okay,
What?
that's pretty much enough for me, at this point. Because if you study genetics at all, you'll know that two blue eye parents, there's like a 0.00001 chance that they're gonna have brown eyes.
And he still decided to stay. And he still decided to stay. This is crazy. If there's any reason for a divorce, this is definitely up there for sure.
And so, uh, kind of discovered that, and it's sort of funny because
No, it's not.
I think for a lot of people that would have probably pushed them over the edge. To me, that kind of pulled me back in, because this had been my child for a year, and she is like literally the sweetest little baby, and just fell in love head over heels for this kid and whatnot. And to me, it was almost like, I think most people would want revenge, whether it be a divorce or whether it be whatever it may be. For me, that almost became my revenge. The fact that I get to have this kid.
I'm not sure how long I can watch the rest of this. You guys might have to go check out the rest of this on other people's lives because this is insane. This man's a professional cleanup man. Professional cleanup man. He's talking about getting revenge. That's not how you get revenge to your father who smashed your wife and got her pregnant. But maybe you may disagree. Comment down below. I don't know how long I can do this.
And this kid is mine, and she is so beautiful and so awesome. And so, in a way, it sort of grounded me in the whole healing process. I guess I should say.
That's such an unexpected, logic, I think. I mean, I've no experience raising a child, so I really, I'm not judging that. It's just I don't think what a lot of people, would expect to hear.
Yeah.
This man's obviously professional, letting him know that was an interesting logic. Nice way of saying, wow, that was stupid, if you are going to be honest.
And for me, something that's really important to me is that I do have faith. I do believe in God. I
I
do
knew
actually
it.
work in the ministry and
I
that kind
knew
of
it.
thing. And so a lot of that, a lot of the journey that we've taken since then has come down to that to my faith and that kind of thing. And so
I knew it. I knew it. You knew what, Shisha? I knew that this man had to be Christian. As someone who identifies as Christian, I know a lot of men out here who stay in toxic situations. And I mean the most horrible toxic situations because they believe being a Christian is suffering through that dynamic, forgiving to a fault. I don't believe in that. I believe you can still forgive and move on. You can still forgive and move on. Now, if he felt impressed by God himself to stay, I can't argue with that. But more times than not, being raised up in the church, I have seen so many men in miserable situations with miserable women where they're not even married to these chicks, but they just, they just deal with chaos, disrespect, all because, okay, well, you know, Jesus turned the other cheek and this is that, and maybe this is God's plan for me. She said that God told her I'm her husband, didn't buy it. Keep listening.
that's also helped a lot.
So you said that you and your wife are still together. Do you and your father still have a relationship?
Yeah. So over the last couple of years now, we've kind of gotten back to the point where we can have conversations that we can be around. Him and my mom are back together. They can come over and be with my girls, sort of situation. They still have pretty deep. I should say like guardrails to protect them from my wife and him do not speak alone at all. They're always if they're going to speak, it's always in some sort of a group text message with myself and my mom and that kind of thing and whatnot. And obviously there's I mean, we're grazing the surface as far as like most of this goes, just because there's so much more as to why. And studying counseling for my to be a pastor, I it kind of also helped me understand that there's just so much more to this, and I could go all the way back to my dad's childhood, just to really see how all this unfolded, how it was like really the perfect storm of just a young girl who didn't have a good relationship with her father, who was also very influential by older men, always has been, and a man who just never really knew what love was and how to love. And
This is the type of gymnastic that they'll do to you in therapy when your girl cheats on you and you go talk to a therapist about it. Well, you gotta look at why she did it. Why did she do it? Let's go back to second grade. This is the reason she let Pookie in her adult years hit it raw. Something that happened in the childhood. Can't just be the fact that she's just being a 3 or 4.
just taking advantage of someone. And so my wife and I are in a great place. Praise God for that. My dad and I, we're in a good place, better than most out there probably would have ever imagined. I guess I probably would have imagined, but it's not. It's come with its trials for sure.
Wow. Was there, an apology on your dad's side and your wife's side? Like did they really yeah, they really kind of want to seek your forgiveness?
I guess one thing that was kind of beneficial was I was able to see like there were a lot of missing puzzle pieces over the several years of our marriage, and this sort of filled in those gaps.
Did they apologize, bro? I can't do this. I can't do this. This man's about to preach to us.
um and because of that, I was able to see and see through some of the communications that they had and some of the discussions they had, that immediately both of them were like incredibly regretful for what they did. And then they just kind of got in this cycle. Alongside of this, my mom, it was coming out that my mom was like a really really bad like alcoholic, and was like, it was sort of like destroying a bunch of aspects of our family, and there was just a lot of things going on. And And so in the midst of this, like I said, it was like just a perfect storm of I didn't protect my wife enough from this situation as far as like I allowed them to be closer than they should have been. Um, and they both just
I can't do it. Listen, I'm tapping out. Go check it out for yourself. Let's check out some of these comments, see what the people have to say. First comment here says, I didn't protect my wife from him. This guy's quoting the guy. He says they're both grown ASS adults. They are accountable for their actions. This guy just makes me sad. Somebody else here says, I think the craziest part of this is that they're still married. Yeah, that is insane. Somebody else here says, we're in no position to judge. And so he's quoting one of the hosts there, I'm assuming. Goes on to say, bruh, yes, I am. I am not raising my little sister and letting my parents smash my partner. I'm judging. I don't care, this commenter says. Here's somebody else who says, I failed to protect my wife. Oh, she's also quoting. This is a woman also quoting the guy. She says, I can't believe she's got him thinking part of this is his fault. Man. Women, man. When a woman believes she can manipulate you, and I mean truly she thinks she can manipulate you, things get really scary. Somebody else here says, once he mentioned he was religious, it made sense to why he stayed with her. Yeah. Here's somebody else who says, I'm all for forgiveness, but this guy still blames himself and holds himself accountable for actions of others. Forgive yourself. Yeah, he sounds more regretful than he was making them out to be, right? Here's another person who says, there is something seriously wrong with dad. Wife is insane. Nothing about this is vaguely normal or forgivable. You can forgive. I'm somebody who believes in the principle of forgiveness because at the end of the day, you're holding in that hurt and it has to come out. But you don't have to deal with those people for the rest of your life. In my opinion, if they've hurt you deeply enough. You may disagree, and that's okay. Somebody else who says, this is so foul. I feel so terrible for the caller's mother. She's completely overlooked in this story. She lost a relationship with her son, trust in her husband and daughter-in-law, and a grandchild. For him to even bring up his mother's alcoholism and say it was destroying our family, disgusting. Him forgiving his wife and father is one thing, but letting the man back into the fold is negligent and emotionally abusive to his daughter. How insanely irresponsible, this commenter says. Here's another woman who says, if I found out my partner slept with one of my parents, I wouldn't speak to either of them ever again. That is unforgivable betrayal. Here's somebody else who added, my guy's buying his way into heaven with this level of forgiveness. I mean, that's probably not too far from his thought process, if I'm going to be honest. Somebody else who says his father is not the only one who doesn't know what love is. He has completely intellectualized his feelings to the detriment of himself and his children. Somebody else who says his wife knew exactly what she was doing. She's not a child. But what do you think? Of course, I'm curious. Leave your thoughts and comments down below. I appreciate you all for checking out yet another episode of The Coffee Pot. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.